Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Today I'm going to talk about the importance of research papers in science. यानी साइंस में तहकीकी मकालों की अहमियत. We know that the human quest for scientific knowledge results in expanding the body of knowledge. When we look at the fascinating scientific inventions, complex theories, and discoveries, we may be inspired with the wonders of science and nature. In fact, science helps us to understand nature and its underlying governing principles. Now, the question is, are these scientific discoveries, inventions, and theories reported on social media, such as Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, or any other social media platform? No, of course not. These complex theories, discoveries, scientific inventions, theoretical and experimental results are generally reported in scientific research papers, which are published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. Now, when we look at COVID-19 research, uh, back in 2019 and 2020, the whole of humanity suffered from COVID-19. Countries were locked down, travel restrictions were in place, billions of people were affected by this virus, and millions were died. So scientists who are working on virology, virology is the domain of science in which we study viruses, put their full efforts to understand this virus. So fortunately, researchers and scientists who develop mRNA and other variants of vaccine for the cure of coronavirus were successful. So before these vaccines were publicly, were used publicly, scientists performed extensive experimentation, and once approved by the medical regulatory bodies, these vaccines were rolled out. So when we look at the experimentation results of these vaccines results were published in, for example, Nature journal. So when we look at the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, the results were published in the Nature journal, which is one of the prestigious scientific journal around the globe. Moreover, when we look at the results of Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, the results were published in the Lancet journal, which is again one of the prestigious journals. So you can see the very recent coronavirus and the research carried out on finding the vaccines for coronavirus were published in these top ranked scientific journals. Now looking at the screenshot here, you can see this is the screenshot of the Nature journal in which the Pfizer BioNTech results were reported. And this is the result of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, which was reported in the Lancet journal. So this example clearly shows us the importance of research papers. Now let's look at some other examples. So we may have heard about DNA. So in 1953, James D. Watson and Frank Crick published a one-page research paper in Nature journal. It shows the structure of DNA double helix through a diagram. So this is a single one-page research paper which changed the world of biology and led the human quest for search to the next level. So this research of Watson, Crick, and Morris led them to win the Nobel Prize in 1962 in physiology or medicine for their discoveries concerning the molecular structure of nucleic acid and its significance for information transfer in living material. So this is one of the example of importance of research paper. Now, we all know in the context of Pakistan that Pakistan's 10 billion tree tsunami project, which is supported by United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, is a response to climate change and ozone layer depletion. Now, this ozone layer, in fact, is discovered by Joe C. Farman and Brian Gardiner and Jonathan Shanklin in 1985. And they reported this discovery of ozone layer in a research paper published in the Nature journal. So again, you can see the environmental effects and environmental research is reported in the scientific journals such as Nature. Now, we all are somehow using communications, and the current communication systems are based on the theoretical foundations led by Claude Shannon. Shannon is basically known as the father of information theory. So he basically wrote a pioneering paper uh, published in Bell Systems Journal back in 1948 on the mathematical theory of communication. And this was one of the highly cited paper in communication. And this opened new horizons in research. And even right now, when we are working on massive MIMO or other 5G or 6G technologies, we consult this paper. Another important aspect in in, uh, in the physics is basically the Higgs boson particle, which is one of the elementary particle, and it was one of the greatest discoveries in science. So it was basically discovered by ATLAS and CMS experiments at LSC, Large Hadron Collider, at CERN, Geneva, Switzerland. And millions or billions of euros were spent to conduct these experiments, and this the discovery of this elementary particle. And this discovery was reported in a research paper published by Elsevier Physics Letter B journal. So you can see even the discovery of a new particle is being reported and published in scientific research papers. Similarly, when we look at the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1984, so it was given to Niels, George, and Caesar for their theories concerning the specificity in development and control of the immune system and the discovery of the principles for production on monoclonal antibodies. So again, the discovery of antibodies was reported in a research paper published in 1975 in the Nature journal. We all use computers, we all use internet, Facebook, Twitter, and other streaming applications. So in the world of computers and internet, this TCP/IP protocol is a set of protocol basically, which help us to run internet and make computers communicate with each other. So it was this TCP/IP was co-developed by Winton G. Cerf and Bob Kahan. So both of these are recognized as the father of internet. And one of the pioneering research papers about TCP/IP was published in IEEE Transactions on Communications in 1974, and the other one was published in Elsevier Computer Networks journals in 1983. When we look at the domain name system, somehow when we type the name of a website, let's say www.google.com, these names are for to facilitate the end users. But in fact, there is an IP system, IP naming system, which is known as the domain name system. So this domain name system was invented by Paul Moka-Petras, and DNS was introduced basically in RFC 882 and 883 in 1983, and the results were later published in ACM SIGCOMM Computer Communication Review in 1995. I had a chance to meet with Paul Moka-Petras when he was a visiting researcher fellow at Leipzig, Sorbonne University, France, when I was doing my PhD. Now, when we look closely, the Nobel Prize research, so we can see there is a recent study published in Nature Index, which says that the journals such as Physical Review Letters, Astrophysical Journal, Science, and Nature are the journals in the domain of physics which published a large proportion of Nobel Prize winning research papers. It means if we collect the papers which received the Nobel Prize in physics from 1995 to 2017, then 50% of Nobel Prize winning research papers are published in these 4 journals. So this clearly confirms that even Nobel Prize winning research is reported in research papers published in top quality scientific journals. And these are not merely personal publications. In fact, these personal publications provide the foundations to science. So here you can see the percentage of Nobel Prize winning award papers, uh, uh, the distribution, 28.5% papers were published in the physical review letters, 11.2% were published in astrophysical journal, 5.6% research papers were published in science, and 4.7 research papers were published in the Nature journal. So all of these research papers and shows clearly even the Nobel Prize winning research is published in the form of research papers. Now, these examples that I just shared you are sufficient to show the importance of research papers in science. Even science itself cannot flourish without scientific research papers. And when I say publishing your results and discoveries in scientific research papers, it means you are publishing in top quality scientific journals. And those researchers who are conducting top quality scientific research, their research have an impact on the society. So publishing research papers in top quality scientific journals is not an easy game. It's very difficult. If we want to increase the quality of research and nurture scientific knowledge in, more specifically in Pakistani society, we need to give due importance to scientific research papers, both at academic and government level. And we also need to provide enabling environment and encourage researchers and scientists to publish in these top quality scientific journals. So these top quality scientific journals can be easily identified. There's a Clarivat journal citation report, which annually publishes the list of scientific journal rankings. So we can consult that list and try to publish in those top quality scientific journals. Now, if the minority of scientists and researchers are conducting unethical research, unethical practices in research, it does not mean that the whole world is basically doing wrong in the scientific domain. And we should not generalize this by denying all the scientific research papers and scientific journals. As I mentioned, that even the top class scientific research, which is winning Nobel Prize, were published through these scientific research papers. So, there's a dire need to enhance efforts of education and public engagement activities. And when I talk about these education and public engagement activities, even in some European countries, it is essential for scientists and researchers to communicate their research in easy words to the general public and educate the masses. And the same can be done in Pakistan. And we, as a nation, should encourage quality research and discourage unfair and unethical means of publishing scientific research papers. Thanks.